Hi guys, it's Katie. Today I have a project roundup. These are all the craft and DIY projects I've completed recently. I didn't really expect to have a video like this anytime soon. I had sort of a frantic finish as far as finishing Christmas gifts, and I was just crafting and crafting, like pretty much making time for it every night just to get these projects done. And I kind of assumed that after Christmas was over and these gifts were finished and given and it was over that I wouldn't have time for it again. So surprisingly, I've kind of ridden the wave, and I still have been continuing to craft a little bit pretty much most nights, or at least, several times a week, which has been really nice. So sometimes I go long stretches of time where I don't pick up a crochet hook at all, and it's kind of sad because I do really enjoy crocheting. So I have been very busy, like very busy, but I've been trying to work through a bunch of stash yarn. I have quite a bit of stash yarn. I have been crocheting for a long time, since I was like a young kid, so I know this is like something that crafty creative people see potential in everything and can't let things go. I am exactly that way, and I just have the last 25 years of accumulating things, and I don't say that lightly. Like, I have some yarn in my stash that I've had since I was like in high school, so I've just been carrying this stuff around. A lot of it kind of was stored in my parents' house for the longest time, and that drove them nuts. So I have all of it now here in my house, and I had my own craft room, and it's been really nice, and I can just like stash stuff in the corner and nobody has to even know about it, sort of thing. But that room's being turned into my son's bedroom now, and so I'm losing that real estate. So unless it's something that I'm actually ever going to use, which obviously some of this yarn I'm never going to use because I have not used it yet, it's got to go. So rather than just like throw it away or whatever, I'm trying to use it up. So last month I made some hats, and I was going to donate them. Luckily, I just kind of fell into an opportunity. My daughter's preschool was doing a hat drive, so that was perfect. I gave them, I think, 5 hats, and then I also gave some hats as gifts. And then I still have tons of yarn, so I was thinking about where else I can donate hats to now that that hat drive was over, and another opportunity kind of fell in my lap. And my friend who lives in North Carolina, her dad, I don't know if it's her dad's job or if he just volunteers there, but he works in a resident facility for homeless adults, and they're doing a scarf drive. So I was like, well, that's pretty simple. I can do a scarf, because I do want to use up this yarn, but at the same time, I don't have the time or the energy at night to like make anything too complicated. So hats, scarves, these things are perfect. So I've been going through my yarn and making a lot of hard decisions about what I'm keeping and what I'm not keeping. Basically, ideally, I don't need any of the yarn that I have right now. I have no project, well, I have one project in mind that I have yarn set aside for, but I don't have any projects in mind. I don't have anything really, set that I have to do. And this is the thing, is I hold on to this yarn because I may use it for this sometime down the future or something like that. But the reality is, I have 2 craft stores like that I could walk to from my house. There are other countless craft stores and yarn stores, and plus the internet is like the best place to buy yarn. So honestly, the fact that I have like several totes of yarn in my possession is kind of ridiculous when I could just go buy the things that I need. And sometimes things are on sale and you feel like you're getting a good bargain, but then they just sit in a bin. So anyway, what I did was I kind of went bin by bin, and I'm sorting through things, and if there's anything that was large enough to make into a scarf, I set it aside. And then I've been like going through that yarn, and I've actually gone through a ton of yarn. So when you see the scarves here, you'll see that much yarn is how much yarn I was holding on to for basically no reason. And then I'm still going through. I have, I think, 3 totes left. So anyway, I'll show you the scarves. The pile is so big that it just fell over. So I counted at one point, I think I have 21, but I think I've made another 1 or 2. So I think I have 21 or 22 scarves. And I gave a sneak peek on I did a vlog on Friday, and I showed the things that I'm working on. So they were like all over my couch, but I didn't really show them very well. The one that I was working on in that vlog is this purple scarf, and most of these are all very simple. Just 1 stitch. This is cobble stitch. So it's just single crochet, then double crochet, then single crochet, then double crochet. And when you come back on the next row, you put double crochets on your single crochets and single crochets on your double crochets. But it gives this nice texture, and it makes them a little bit, I don't know, like cushier. And I think that it's like a unisex sort of pattern. So, I mean, this is purple, so this would probably most likely go to a woman. but if it was like navy blue or gray or something, it could be for either, and I don't think that it's like too feminine or too masculine, so I thought that that was really nice, and it was super easy for me to do. So I have that. They're all pretty long. I basically, the way I wear scarves is I wrap them around once, and I like them to hang down, you know, plenty, so I think that's like around 60 inches. It's kind of an ideal size for that, and so I have this one. I'd say they're probably about 6 inches wide. And then I have some more, I think that was just Super Saver yarn, like Red Heart Super Saver. And then I had a couple of Caron cakes, and again, like I bought them because they were kind of trendy and people were showing all these awesome projects made with Caron cakes, so I bought some because I found some on clearance, but I had no reason I shouldn't have bought them. But anyway, so I made 3 scarves out of 2 Caron cakes, and it's kind of a shame because the whole nice thing about Caron cakes is they have long stretches of color so that you can make afghans that are kind of self-striping, and when you make really narrow scarves, all you end up is like color blocking. So these are like 4 big blocks of color, but it was nice though because I was able to make like a multicolored scarf without hiding a bunch of ends. So that was the other thing is I have a lot of scrap yarn, but I wasn't really interested in doing anything too complicated or anything that had a lot of ends because I'm basically just trying to process these into scarves. I'm not trying to make anything super spectacular, just something sort of functional. And this is also the cobble stitch. I like the cobble stitch because I feel like it doesn't necessarily need to have a border on the edge. And again, I'm not really interested in, you know, crocheting a whole border all around, because crocheting in the ends of rows is like one of my least favorite things. That and hiding ends. So if I could make scarves without doing that, that was my goal. So I made that one. And then another one, it's the same yarn, but because it started at a different point in the skein, it's got a different color. So this one doesn't have any of the lime green or the brown. So this is just blues, greens, and teals. And then this is the last one. So this one has the brown and the green, and then the blue and the teal. So that's 4 altogether. And then I have another one. This is also cobble stitch. This is an example of yarn that I've held on to way too long. I bought it without a reason, and then I've held on to it for the longest time. This yarn I bought on eBay years and years and years ago when I was still living at home. I've been married for 10 years, so at least probably 15 years ago I bought this yarn, and it was vintage when I bought it. It's from the 70s. I actually have the label, but it's in the bedroom that my son is sleeping in. So I'll insert a picture, but it's very, very vintage, very retro, very 1970s. But this is like a, you know, the avocado green. I think the color is called avocado too. And it's just an acrylic yarn. But I mean, somebody bought that in the 70s and held on to it and then sold it to me in the like late 90s, early 2000s. And then I've held on to it for 15 years. And now, 30 years into its lifespan, it's finally being put to use. So, I don't know. I guess I'm not the only one, obviously, buying things and just holding on to them, but I want to lessen that if I can, because going through this process is, you know, it's not fun. So anyway, so this one's a little bit wider, and I think I made it a little bit longer, so I think this would be nice for maybe a larger man, a little bit bigger. So that makes 5 scarves. I have another one. This is also cobble stitch. This one's a little bit shorter, so I made it a little bit narrower, and I thought maybe it could be for a more petite woman. I have pretty much all of the scarves I made with different kinds of yarn, and I had a lot of sport weight yarn, and I don't even know why I have it because I can't even remember one project I've ever made with sport weight yarn. And I have this one actually. This is also made with a sport weight yarn, and so I just did half double crochets because, again, I think that it's tidy enough on the edges that it doesn't need a border. When you get like into double crochets, I feel like it needs a border. But this, because the yarn is so thin and I had to use a small needle, took forever to make this scarf. And I wasn't interested in doing that again because I was pretty much busting out a scarf a night and sometimes 2 scarves a night. And this took me like 3 or 4 days, so I didn't want to do that again. So with this other sport weight yarn, I just held 2 together and treated it as more of like a worsted weight yarn. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I have one thread was a white and one thread was like a really light blue. So in the sunshine, you can kind of see the different colors. But like from a distance, it just looks like a very light blue or even just a white. So I thought that turned out halfway decent. What else do I have? And then I had another chunkier yarn, this yellow one, but it wasn't quite enough, and this, I didn't want it to be too short. I did this in double crochet, and like I said, I feel like the double crochet does need a border, but I didn't have enough of the yellow. I would have had to make it much shorter to do the border in the yellow, so I did the border in the black. Out of all the scarves, this one I'm like least happy with, but I don't know. If nobody wants it, that's fine. I mean, I'm just donating these, so they can do with them whatever they want. So that's 8 scarves. And then I had some chunky yarn. I have all of these scarves. I bought this chunky yarn to make a baby blanket for my son, and I started making it, and I totally did not like the way that it was turning out. And so I had bought plenty of this yarn, so I turned them into scarves. I really do like these. These are super soft and just nice and big and bulky, but they kind of compress, so when you wrap them around, they're very warm and fluffy. And I just think they look pretty nice. And so I have 2 black. I have 2 black here, and then 1 gray, and then 1 of this maroon. And like I said, these are double crochet, and I did a border around. But because this yarn was so thick, I used a P-hook, and these are the ones I was able to do 2 a night. And again, they're like 60 inches. So these are wider and heavier, but I think that a smaller person could pull them off. They would just be like more of a fluffier style. Okay, and then I had this other chunky yarn, and I think it must have been a partial skein. I tried to make it more like these other scarves, and it was way too short. So this one I did more an open pattern, and I did it narrower. So I had to do it kind of that way just to get a scarf out of a skein, because I didn't have enough to do it, and I didn't have another like complementary yarn to like make it striped or anything like that. So maybe more of like a springtime scarf, but I still think it looks nice. And I think having the length is a little bit more important than having like the width necessarily, especially since it's a little bit bulkier. You can see. So it would look like that. But like I said, since it's kind of bulkier, I think it's, you know, will be plenty warm, especially in the spring. So these are going to North Carolina. I know it's been cold there and they got some snow, but I think generally it's not like these are going to like Maine or Oregon or something where it's really cold all the time. Okay. I think that's all the scarves I crocheted. I think that's 13 scarves. And then I also had a bunch of fleece, and I was thinking about using some fleece to make scarves. My mom made my daughter a fleece scarf. You just cut like a 8-inch wide, however long piece of fleece, and that's it. You can put some tassels on the end, just like cut fringe on the end, but you don't have to finish edges on fleece or anything like that. It's usually you know, nice on both sides, so it's a really simple no-sew project. The only problem is her scarf really got stretched out, and it kind of turned kind of weird, I don't know, because it was like on the stretchy side of the grain or of the fabric, because she cut it perpendicular to the selvage. So a lot of tutorials tell you to do it that way, and that's because that's the way that it goes on the bolt. So if you just want one scarf, you just buy like 10 inches of fleece and you can make one scarf. But I had a nice big 2-yard length, and I cut it the other way, perpendicular to the selvage, and that way it doesn't stretch. And I've washed these, and I actually wore one and they held up a lot nicer. I think they look a lot more polished, and it was really nice because it has this printed plaid pattern. So I just cut along one of these lines in the design, and it made it super easy. So I was able to make 8 scarves, and I put little tassels or fringe on the end. I was able to make 8 scarves out of a 2-yard length, and I was able to do all of these in like not even an hour, maybe like 45 minutes or something. So I have a whole stack. That's 8 more scarves. And I mean, that's how big a 2-yard length of fleece. That's how much of my like real estate in my craft room this has occupied for I don't even know how long. I don't remember when I bought this, but I think I bought this when I was working at that craft store, like when I was in my early 20s. So I've moved several times. I got married, I had babies, I still have the same things. And then when I was making these sort of bulkier scarves with this bulkier yarn, I came across 2 skeins of some Woolies Thick and Quick skeins that were the same color, and I was just going to make them into scarves because these thick and quick scarves. They work up so nice, and I really like how they turned out. So I was just, you know, continuing on making scarves. And as I started, I realized on the label of one of the skeins, it had this pattern to make crocheted slipper socks, and it said, just needs 2 skeins to make these slipper socks. And it was in my favorite horrible shade of green that nobody likes, that I love. And so instead of making scarves out of those, I decided to make slipper socks. I'm actually wearing them. They're kind of hideous, and if I made these and showed them to somebody, I guarantee you they would think that I just like invented this pattern. But nope, this is a published pattern from Lion brand to make these horrible, hideous knee-high slipper socks. But let me show them to you. I like this. So they're like, that thick and quick yarn is actually pretty bulky, so they're not like super comfortable to walk on. I'm actually wearing regular socks inside. They're super warm and they are comfortable. Like if you're sitting on the couch, let me take one off so you can see it a little better. If you're just sitting on the couch, they're super warm. They keep your feet nice and warm. But when you're walking around on them, because the stitches are so big, it's kind of like you're walking on cobblestone. But they have like a ribbed top, and then it's just single crochet, and it decreases a little bit around the ankle, and then it makes this foot. And I think I made one sock once, one crocheted sock once, and I never made the partner because it was such a pain. So I was reading this pattern and I didn't even have any clue, like spatially, what I was doing. But they turned out, I actually had to pull I made the first one and then I made the second one. I realized my mistake. I pulled out the what I had done on the second one, and then I had to pull out the first one up into the ankle and then redo the foot. So I think I was doing it right, but it was making the foot really long, so my foot's kind of short. I have kind of Fred Flintstone feet. So I ended up making it more short in the, you know, the foot part, but it fits my foot really well. So yeah, I posted a picture on my personal Facebook page and made a joke about like killing myself on my hardwood floors because these are pretty slippery. And but I've been really enjoying them. I actually put them on a few days ago and I haven't taken them off, so I do like them, and they're, you know, my favorite shade of hideous pea soup green. So anyway, I made something for myself instead of something to donate, but I felt kind of good about it because nobody wants that color as a scarf. But they make really nice feeties for me. I like them. And then the last thing I've been working on is another ongoing project. This thing, again, I probably started this, I showed this in the vlog too. I probably started this blanket when I was in high school or just out of high school. It was at my mom's house for the longest time, and it was in like a plastic underbed storage in her guest room, and I think she found it one day and she's like, you have to get this half-done project out of my house because it's huge. It's this like entire afghan, but it's a twin-size afghan. So when I started making this, I was sleeping in a twin-size bed at my parents' house, so I was probably like 17 or 18 and now I'm 36 and living with my husband, and I sleep in a queen-size bed. So this is gonna have to go on one of my kids' beds, but it is a scrap afghan, and there are so many different yarns, and it is so hideous and ugly and tacky, and just everything clashes on purpose. Can you see how many different colors are in this thing? I think when I made it, I'll have to count and see, but when I made it long ago, I had probably an even bigger, more ridiculous yarn stash. This is, when I started this was when I was working at the fabric store, so more like when I was 18 or 19. And so like one of my jobs was to do the price markdown on like yarn and fabric and stuff. So I brought so much junk home just because like it went on clearance, and there'd be like ridiculous things. I got some, actually remember I got this yarn here, you can see it. It's white with sparkles. It was a Christmas yarn and nobody bought it. There was white, bright green, bright red, and then a more like muted green and muted red, and I think there was a cream color. So they were just like Christmas colors, and they had this god-awful like silver thread running through it. And I think they clearanced and clearanced and clearanced, and at one point they were like 5 or 10 cents for a skein, like for an 8-ounce skein. And I think I bought like 25 skeins just because they were so cheap. And then I had those forever. Those I ended up making tree skirts and giving tree skirts to people. But yeah, here's some more of the red with the silver thread through it. So some of those made it into here, but I think I'll have to count, but I think that was like the first like 30 or 40 rows I completed without repeating a color. So I had like 30 different kinds of yarn to make this, and then I've just added on to it. So when my mom gave it to me, it had all of the ends were still out, so every time you do a color change, which is every other row, you have an end that you have to weave in. And so when I first got it back, I hid all the ends. So because you go down and then back, all of the ends were on one end, or one edge only. So I hid all of the ends. Actually, I think it's the other side. Yeah, I hid all of the ends to finish the edge, and I'll probably put a border when this is done. But I went all the way up and hid all of the ends. And then after I hid all the ends, I put it in my craft room, and it's been there for probably 2 years. So I pulled it out, since I'm going through that room. And then this here, where the ends are starting again, this is how much, this much. This is how much I've done in the last, probably 2 months or so. So I've been really working on this. So basically, if I find yarn that's big enough to make a scarf, I make a scarf. If it's not quite big enough to make a scarf, or if there's some left over after a scarf, I've been putting it on here. So this is probably about 10 or 12 inches shy of being, the perfect size for a twin size bed. So I just need probably, I'd say like 10 or 12 more rows. And I'll probably be able to do it easily because, like I said, I still have tubs and tubs and tubs of fabric. All right, I think that is everything for my project roundup this time. I do want to make some soap soon, so hopefully I'll have some more craft projects, and then I'm gonna have to mail these scarves off because they want them sooner than later. But I might be maybe making some more and sending a second one. They said that they had 90 residents, and I think I counted what I still forgot to count, but I think I have like 22 or 23 scarves here. So maybe I could send like another box of, I don't know how much yarn I have, but maybe another 20 scarves. And that would be like half the residents getting a brand new scarf. So that would be nice. And in addition to everybody else that's donating in the scarf drive, I think there's 2 or 3 other people. But I think they were thinking that each person would send like 1 or 2. So I don't know. Hopefully, maybe I'll send these 20 and make sure that they're well received before I send more. But anyway, I'm happy that this yarn that's kind of been a burden to me is going to be a blessing to somebody else. And yeah. So these are all my scarves. This is how much yarn I've processed, and I have so much more. So just imagine all of this as skeins of yarn. Like, I can't even hold it all. Imagine all of that sitting in a tub in my spare bedroom for 10 years. My next project is to go through, I have an entire tub of cotton yarn. So the acrylic yarn was going really well for hats and scarves. I can't really think of anything that I can make the cotton yarn into that I would be able to donate. If you have any ideas, I'd like to hear them. But what I was thinking is taking the cotton yarn that there's big enough amounts of and making a bunch of pot holders. I am having my 20,000 subscriber milestone is coming up probably in the next 5 or 6 months. So I think if maybe I work on several sets of pot holders, then I can hold a giveaway. So I wanted to just kind of bring that up to maybe ask you as a subscriber or a viewer that watches, if you were to enter that giveaway, would like a set of pot holders be something that you would want, or part of the giveaway gift be a set of pot holders, or maybe something like dishcloths or washcloths or like coasters or something that could be made out of cotton yarn, so that maybe over the next few months I could be working on those things so that when I hit that milestone, hopefully I hit that milestone, but it seems likely, then I can like host a giveaway and give away to a few different winners a set of pot holders. So anyway, if that's something that you'd be interested in, or if there's something like else that you'd be interested in instead made out of cotton yarn, then just let me know because that's what I'll be working on next. All right. Anyway, thanks for joining me for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe got a little motivation to pick up your project that you might have set down for 20 years and finish it up. Okay. Have a good day. I will see you guys next time. Bye!